Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Favorite Guitar Solos. We've got a very special guest who has not been on the show in a long time. I'm talking about Lion music recording artist, guitarist extraordinaire, songwriter extraordinaire, Mr. Jim Ledford. Jim, how are you, my friend? Long time no see.
Doing well. Doing very well. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be back with you.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to have you back. So, I thought up this concept for this favorite guitar solo show about a month or so ago. And all along I've been plotting. It's like, well, I know lots of guitar players. I have lots of friends who are guitar players, and I kind of know who everybody likes. So as I'm putting together this list of all the players that I can cover on this show, and let's be frank, I could do this show forever because there's so many great guitar players. I was thinking, all right, so I know Mr. Ledford hasn't been on the show in a while. I know Mr. Ledford's got a new solo album coming out fairly soon. I know Mr. Ledford loves Jeff Beck, so boom, there you have it, right? So for those of you who have been watching the show, this is how we work it here. I asked, either myself and my guest, I asked to go through the catalog of the particular guitar player. In this instance, it's Jeff Beck. And basically, you got free reign to pick whatever solo you like. It could be a Jeff Beck solo album, a solo from a solo album song. It could be something he did with the Yardbirds. It could be a live recording. It could be studio. Could be a session he did. Doesn't really matter. It's all fair game. So as always, I'm going to let my esteemed guest start off with his number 10. And we'll work our way back up to number 1. And I do want to say, and Jim, you probably went through the same thing here. This was really hard. This is a guy who's got so many great solos and so many great songs. And, I put a list of 10 together. I don't know how, committed I am to the order. It's just that the ones that are in there have to be in my top, but I love them all. And I threw them in some kind of order, and we'll, whatever. See, they stuck today that way. Ask me next week, they could be in a different order. So we'll see.
Yeah. No order for me, because I would need 50 of the best.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just put them out here. That's all, So my number 10 would be "She's a Woman," and I like "She's a Woman" because there was a talk box involved, and I thought the solo that he did on Jeff Beck with Jan Hammer live is actually my favorite version of that one. So that's. The talk box for me was an exciting thing back in the 70s, with Frampton and all those guys, Joel, and with Beck, And so when I heard that the first time on my 8-track, not dating myself, of course, I just thought he did a really great solo live on the live Jan Hammer album. So that's my number 10.
That's a great choice, and I'm kicking myself because how did I forget that song and that solo? And it just goes to show you the extent of how much greatness is in this guy's catalog, that you can leave out something so special as that because you're concentrating on all these other things, right? So yeah, that's a great choice. I wish I included it. That's a great one.
Interesting point about that with the talk box with him is I'm sure he used the heel sound, which everybody was using back in the day, the talk box on that particular live cut, but. When he started out using the talk box, he had a bag, literally with the driver in it and a tube coming out of it, and he kept it on a strap on his. This is back in the late '60s, and it was a talk bag instead of a talk box, and literally they carried it around, and on stage, So that's an interesting point that I found out years ago through one of my guitar techs, and I thought that was pretty cool.
How some of the
they used an A/B switch.
Yeah, exactly. How some of the equipment evolved, right, over the years. It's crazy. All right, my number 10, I love this song. I love the solo in it. It's from the Rough and Ready album, which, hold on, let's get my props here. I brought them all out. I might as well show them, right? So from this great album, so this is the Jeff Beck group, the song called "Got the Feeling," which, you talk about the talk box on your pick. Here he's using the wah-wah. He didn't use a lot of wah-wah in his career, but it's got these really kind of funky wah-wah licks, a lot of firepower to it. I love the riffs in the song, and then that kind of extended solo to it near the end. You got Cozy Powell just going off underneath it all. And I think just a really cool song, a really cool solo, does all these kind of weird noises and things. I think that's kind of indicative of Beck's playing overall. It's like you never quite know what to expect this guy. He is anything but what you'd expect in a kind of traditional sense of guitar playing, right? It's like take kitchen sink, everything but the kitchen sink. Well, no, throw the kitchen sink in there too and see what comes out, right? And that's like kind of Jeff Beck for you. So yeah, got the feeling from Rough and Ready. That's my number 10 pick.
Nice. Okay.
Back to you.
Number 9, I absolutely love this song. And it was jumping fast forward from the She's a Woman time frame to the Rod Stewart 80s kind of thing. So this one would be Infatuation.
Good choice. Still there?
Nope, something happened. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, looks like we lost your video. Just turn your video back on. I still hear you though.
Let's see.
All right, we're back after a couple seconds of technical difficulties. So Jim, back to you at number 9.
Yep. So I was saying Infatuation, Rod Stewart's album, Camouflage. One of my favorite Beck solos because he was getting into like an extremely aggressive tone on his guitar and his solo and everything, and that's a prime example of that song right there.
Yeah.
Of that. So for me, that was my 80s timeline as a guitar player. So that was, I just loved the sound, and I just thought he was aggressive through the entire song, and a lot of pinch harmonics going on. I mean, like 80s kind of pinch harmonics, not Jeff Beck kind of, you know what I mean? That's an all-time favorite of mine.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good choice. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about some of that early 80s stuff in a couple minutes here. Yeah. But first, I'm going to go way back. I'm going to go back to this album right here, which I talk about, Jeff and Rod, right? The first time they got together. I felt it would have been a shame if I didn't include Shapes of Things on this list, which I think is just, I mean, considering the time, this was what, 1968, 69? Forget exactly which year, one or the other. This is some pretty savage soloing in that song. And, Shapes is kind of like this weird, dreamy, psychedelic song. And he just comes in with this like, crazy squealing stuff going. I mean, that's Beck, right? Again, you'd never know what to expect from the guy. And I think that his, their version here really held up well for many, many years. And it wasn't until like the early 80s when Gary Moore decided to remake this song and even took that up another notch, right? But there would have never been that if it wasn't for this one. So my number 9 solo is Shapes of Things from the Truth album.
Nice, good pick.
Thank you.
My number 8 is Because We've Ended as Lovers, which is actually a cover tune. Now this one I really, really love the work that Beck did on this one. I would consider this his, even though it's a cover for him. I believe it was Stevie Wonder cut that tune. This would be considered, in my book, like Beck's ballad. That would be like his ballad, in my personal opinion, with some Beck flair, of course. But I mean, that's what I consider like his ballad tune right there. It's one of my favorite Beck songs. I recorded this several times myself over the years, so it's his version.
Tasty stuff, yeah. Well, and we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. So I'm going to stay. Yeah, I love it. That's and we're going to stay on that album for my pick because I think, quite frankly, it was hard not to just say, well, let's just do every damn song and solo from the Blow by Blow album, right? Because this is like considered his masterpiece, right, or one of his couple of masterpieces. I went for my number 8. I went for Scatterbrain, which. Yeah, I mean, it's like this album, it's either you have the kind of slower, more melodic stuff, the really tender stuff, and then the manic kind of jazz fusion-y thing, which, he was getting into here, thanks to him paying attention to guys like John McLaughlin and Tommy Bolin, right? So Scatterbrain is like, it's really fluid, really tasty, but yet he mixes in all these little speedy runs with all that great bending, you know, but the song itself is kind of really breezy and jazzy. It's just really neat how like the arrangements of some of these songs on this album contained these solos that, you know, maybe on a cursory listen, you're almost like, wow, that kind of doesn't really fit. Oh, but wait a second. Oh yeah. You know what? That fits absolutely perfect, because it's like this, this yin and yang on a lot of these songs, right? It's like, cause you talked about it too. And cause we've ended as lovers, which I'll get into again in a couple of minutes, but how he kind of changes speeds and, you know, these bursts of aggression and all within like one song. And I think that's always been what's so great about this guy, and just so original. I mean, you know, anybody else, when they were getting ready to record an album like this, anybody else would have been like, all right, so I've seen Tommy Bolin do his thing with Billy Cobham and Alphonse Mouzon, and I've been paying attention to John McLaughlin and those kind of guys, and Larry Coryell. I kind of want to do the same thing. You know, he could have done an album like this that just sounded like what everybody else was doing, but nobody's ever sounded like this guy, right?
Yeah, absolutely correct. Yeah, I mean, and it's all here, man. You know, there's like, it's not about the guitar, what guitar pick you're using with him. That's why there's like no separation. You know what I mean? He's all feel from his fingers right to his strings to his amp, and that's that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's where his tone and feel and everything is coming from. There's no break there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No middleman.
When did he start? When did he stop using picks completely? Was that right around this time or shortly thereafter?
Well, I mean, I've seen a few times in some earlier 70s videos where he was still had a little clicker in his hand there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm not really sure about that, because I'm starting to hear that. You know what I mean? Like in Blow by Blow, the fingers. You know, like more of the finger playing. So I'm gonna say probably right around that timeline. That on Wired. I mean, you know, it's, you know, right around that whole timeline right there.
Yeah, because I think when he started doing stuff with Rod again, and when he did There and Beck, I'm pretty sure he had ditched the pick by then. But yeah, the early stuff, you know, the late 60s, early 70s, Beck, Bogert, and a piece, I think I'm pretty sure he was still using the pick there. And even like that early Jeff Beck group stuff. But I think once he started playing this fusion stuff, I think he started experimenting and, you know, doing away with the little plastic thingies, so to speak. Right? Yep. So. Yep, exactly. All right, back to you. What do you got? Number 7.
Right, number seven came in with Diamond Dust on Blow by Blow. One of my favorite songs, and one of my personal favorites to play as well. I mean, that's just I don't know, man. That's like some beautiful solo work going on there. Very, again, you know, very, very finger to string kind of what I'm hearing there. You know, typical Beck. You know, but I will use the word typical quite a bit throughout our show here today, because his style is very typical. I mean, you know, it's hard to break down per solo. You know what I mean? Like the difference. You know, I think only he could answer that. Get him on the show.
Okay, yeah, hey, I'll do that tomorrow, right? I'm sure we're gonna get people like, oh, come on, but you're getting all these other guys on the show. Come on, well, you can't get Jeff Beck. Well, easier said than done. But yeah,
I know, man. You're having a nice run. Congratulations, by the way, on your recent shows. I'm enjoying watching them very much, and there's some killer guests on there.
Thank you. Well, you know, I'll spill the beans a little bit right now. So I am actually talking to Walter Trout about coming on the show, over the next couple of weeks. So
nice, very nice.
Talk about great guitar players, right? I mean, geez.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. So let's see. My number 7. Let me get my prop out here. So I'm going to go with Superstition on the Beck, Bogert, and a Piece album right here. And Carmine and I were just talking about this album just last week, right? Great album. Great. You know, there's a bunch of tunes I kind of wanted to pick on here. Got to go with Superstition. I think, you know, it's Stevie Wonder wrote the song for him. It's funky. It's rocking. But I think it's another one of those songs where he's got this little, you know, 40-second window or whatever it is, and he just like throws absolutely everything in there. It's like these little funky bits and the blues and hard rock and just all these noises and pick scrapes and pinch harmonics. It's like, I mean, what the guy can do in a couple bars is, I mean, there are other players who spend their whole career trying to play solos like that, right? And it's just so monstrous. And the tone on this one, the solo, just monstrous tone. And you got, you know, of course, the huge bottom end of Tim Bogert and Carmen Apiece behind him. It's unbelievable stuff. So yeah, Superstition is my number 7.
Killer choice, by the way. Yeah, definitely. Great album.
Yeah.
My number 6 would be Angel Footsteps from the Who Else? All right. Again, all I can say, because it kind of falls in the same under the same category as the Diamond Dust feel. You know what I mean? It has that same kind of feel to it, but I don't know. He's this guy's got some serious magic going on in his fingers, and just the way that's kind of that tune there is kind of Diamond Dust is the best way I can put those. I think that's probably why I ended up 7 and 6, because I had that same thing in my mind as I was going through, you know, songs in my head when I was picking.
Yeah.
You know, this past week. But yeah, that's real stylish solo work going on there. I mean, the intro, everything is, you know, that's my number 6. That's my fave.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, you know, he's got a lot of albums to his credit. He's been a lot busier in recent years than he was like probably during the 70s and the 80s. And you know, even though he's been dabbling in all sorts of different sounds, you know, he's done some like techno and dubstep and a little R&B. I mean, he's done all these. Usually, every album you're going to get some songs like that, right? It's like he makes sure to throw that stuff in on every album, which is really, really cool. So you can always count on.
Yeah, because that's the back. That's the Beck in the album, like those songs.
Yeah.
Like that. That's how I hear Jeff Beck.
Yeah.
You know, I guess that's the point I was trying to make between like Diamond Dust and that. It's like that's Beck. You know, and you know it in a heartbeat. You know what I mean? The second you hear it, there's no question.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep. All right. So moving right along to my number 6. How about let's go to Wired? Right. I even wore my Wired shirt today in celebration of this. I actually, this was not in my original top 10 because I'm sure as you did over the last couple of weeks, I've been like kind of putting stuff in and out of this list and think, you know, it takes a while to formulate this list. Like, oh, but I like this one better. Oh, but how about this one? So this actually was not in my original top 10 until last night. And then I was like, oh, wait a second. How the hell did I forget Goodbye Pork Pie Hat, right? The old Charlie Mingus classic. Man, the tone on this. And you know, it's what's weird about this, the CD or the album, it's like he's playing a Strat on the front, and then on the back they show him jamming away on a Les Paul, and it's like, and they don't really tell you, you know, what he's playing from track to track, although usually you can tell the difference. I think he plays a Strat most on this album, to be honest with you, but who knows? What do I know? But yeah, Goodbye Pork Pie Hat, it's a great classic song for a reason, and I think his just kind of tasty solo, I mean, you know, it's instrumental obviously, so that it's almost like he's soloing through the whole thing, but he goes from that restrained to screaming, back to restrained to tasty and melodic, and let's throw a little bit of scream back at the end, and that's what he does so well. He really mixes it up. There's no let's do the same thing throughout the whole song, throughout the whole solo. It's just like keeps you guessing, keeps you on your toes, and that's what this guy has always done and continues to do. So Goodbye Pork Pie Hat is my number 6.
Funny, because that was the first pick that I had in my head. when I sat down on my list, it really was. I was like, man, I have to put that in. But it's the same thing that you were just saying. You know, you go through so many, and I think that on my initial list, my eraser saw no more daylight by the time of the end. I got to the end of the page. So
that's yeah, I can see you got a lot of notes there. That's like I did mine on a Google sheet, so it's like I did it on the computer because my handwriting is atrocious, and if I were to handwrite all this stuff, I would never be able to read anything. So
it sticks better in my older age if I write it down. So it's
well, yeah, because it takes a lot more effort to write, right? Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so my number 5 is what I would consider the Jeff Beck early commercial phase, which kind of we were talking about before on the Blow by Blow album, is Freeway Jam. All right. However, again, I would have to jump back into the Jan Hammer live album. but for a feel and just the initial commercial value of, I mean, it's truly the classic Jeff Beck commercial song right there. So that's my number 5. But I'm definitely crossed up between which one I love more, which would be the Blow by Blow album or Live with Jan Hammer. But I got to go with my old 8-track, man. My Jan Hammer. I fell asleep to that album more times than I can possibly reiterate.
Oh, it's definitely great late night listening, trying to just kind of chill out in bed. And absolutely, I've done it myself. And high five to you, my friend, because my number 5 is also Freeway Jam from the Blow by Blow album. And you know what I think? I think the live album with Jan Hammer is a little airier. Because you got, I mean, that's Jan Hammer and his band, right? So you kind of expect that. I think it's a little jazzier, whereas I think the studio version is a little bit tighter, a little more rock oriented, right? But man, that solo again, just he's throwing it all out there, and it's pretty furious at times. And that's that's one of the songs that most people know. It's even if you don't know it's Jeff Beck, you probably heard Freeway Jam before. And I mean, back in the day, who would have ever thought that kind of like a jazz fusion-y instrumental tune like this would be played on FM rock radio? Right. Kind of unheard of at the time, right? So he opened the doors a little bit there. So yeah, good choice. All right, back to you, number 4.
All right, number 4. Again, don't kill me I'm gonna keep jumping in and out of the Jan Hammer album because I mean I grew up on it. That's all I can say. So it would be Blue Winds. Yeah. Absolutely killer tune, also from your T-shirt. So, just that's one of my favorite Jeff Beck songs. Probably one of the first Jeff Beck tunes I think I ever learned actually when I was a kid. I saw a band play it live in Cornwall, New York, and just I think it was maybe New Windsor, upstate New York, whatever it was a band playing there, and they were doing Beck. And man, it's killer. I went home and figured it out, and that song has some great work in it, and great commercial value for him. You know what I mean? That's something that someone, if you listen to Beck over the years, you just know that, just like Freeway Jam, same kind of vibe. You know what I mean? And solo work on it was really, really fantastic. Like more, rocking, come in a little odd, you know what I mean, with the weird opening chords, and then just takes off into the song, rips into your face with a higher note. Man, that was good stuff.
Yeah.
So that's my 4.
I'm hanging my head in shame because that didn't make my list. That's a great choice. That should have been in my top 10. Well, what are you going to do? Like I said, you can't include them all, right? And that's what makes this so hard. You're listening to all these songs, and then you just start jotting stuff down. It's like, oh, there's so many good ones. I'm glad you had it in yours, though. At least one of us was smart enough to put it in there. All right, so here's kind of like a little weird one for me. Although I think most people who know me, and listen to me talk about Jeff Beck before, I always sing the praise of this song and this album. I'm going to go to the Flash album for a song called It Gets Us All in the End.
Yeah.
What a crazy ass song that is, huh? Yeah. I mean, you talked before about the Infatuation solo, right? And that early mid 80s where he was just getting all metallic, and he's like, Eddie Van Halen who? George Lynch who, right? How about me, right? And I just love Jeff just like going for the jugular on this song. It's on this album, it's probably the most rockin' tune on here. It's got a great Jimmy Hall from Wet Willie lead vocal, but man, he's just making all these crazy ass noises. He's the whammy bar going absolutely ripping it right off the guitar. He's just shredding like mad throughout this song, just screaming solos. And it's like, if you want to hear Jeff Beck just absolutely going berserk into shred zone, Gets Us All in the End is absolutely the song to check out. So I love it. And there's some other cool, good stuff on this album too, like more kind of chill stuff, and even some kind of like, weird dancey type stuff. But I always love that song a lot. And I every time, I've been listening to that song and this album for 30 some odd years. If we were to get off this call and I put that on, it would still, the hairs on the back of my neck would still be like kind of, ooh, So yeah, so that's my number 4. Gets Us All in the End from Flash.
That's a killer choice, man. A killer album, by the way.
I always dug it. There's some fans don't like this album. I always liked it. I always liked
I
it.
don't know why, because that's when he was like showing his. You know what I liked about it? Stuff like that, and like on the Camouflage album and everything, was where he was mixing his Jeff Beck, and then again his in your face '80s. But when you put the two together, what a stunning guitar player! I mean, what you know what I mean? Like what a you put it, you got nothing but killer going on there. You know?
Oh yeah, in a big way.
What's left?
All killer, no filler. That's what's left.
Yeah. All right. My number 3 is, again, from your T-shirt, would be Lead Boots, one of my favorite songs.
Oh, yeah. Gotta have Lead Boots, right? Absolutely.
Yeah. One of my favorite songs, and that's where I started to really recognize him and that entire band on the album there. For the prog value in Beck, because if you listen, you don't have to listen too hard, but if you listen to that, there's all kinds of prog in your face stuff going on, man, like all kinds of heavy board stuff going on, and that's an in your face tune, and it definitely has a high energy, super high energy solo spots in there, little spots in there, but the prog value and the overall song is what always caught my attention about that. And that was before my prog days.
Yeah. And how about the drums in that song? All right. Narada Michael Walden, who's now in Journey. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Yeah. It bleeds prog if you listen to it, just like what you're just saying right there. Like, that's what I hear in prog. I'm hearing like all these little intricate things going on, you know, and then you got him coming into the mix, and the bass was cool on that. I mean, that's my number 3. And yes, probably would be my number 3 if we were going 10-1 on our list for an actual. So we're getting closer to 1.
There you go. Well, we'll talk more about Lead Boots in a minute, but before we do, neither one of us has mentioned this album yet, and I had to include a track on here. It was just a matter of which one. I went back and forth, but I went with Guitar Shop, the song "Where Were You," which I believe he won a Grammy for, and it's. Out of everything on this album, it's probably the kind of, it stands out because it's very different. It's very mellow, very tender. It's not a long song. And it's just basically him and the guitar, you know, hitting these little harmonics and, you know, don't know, I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. And it's like, you know, you talk about a crying, like a guitar solo that's just crying with emotion. That's Where Were You? And I just always love it. I hear it and you're just like, oh wait, Jeff is calling me, right? I mean, it's just absolutely haunting and beautiful. And so I chose that one over a couple of other like really heavy hitters from this album, which we'll get to in our honorable mentions. But Where Were You from Guitar Shop, Jeff Beck's Guitar Shop, along with the great Tony Hymas and Terry Bozzio. What a trio, right? That's a power trio to end all power trios right there, right?
That's a killer mix right there. No doubt. Yeah. But great album. Also a forgotten album, you know what I mean, in most ears for some unfortunate reason.
Well, I mean, you know, when people talk about like Jeff Beck's greatest moments, right, they always go to Blow by Blow and Wired and maybe Truth. And, you know, those are always the big 3 that are mentioned. But man, I mean, this was like comeback of the ages right here. He hadn't done anything since Flash, right? I mean, he appeared on a couple people's albums here and there, but then he came out with this monster and it was like, you know, holy cow, right? I remember seeing that tour and I was like, woo, him and Stevie Ray Vaughan in Madison Square Garden. It's like, killer.
Yeah.
Killer. All right, here we are, the number 1, the magic number 1. Drum roll, please.
Number two.
Oh, number 2. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry.
I don't want to miss anything.
My excitement over Jeff Beck guitar solos, I'm losing my marbles here.
My number 2 was Beck's Bolero from Truth.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if you listen to that, I love I love the distortion sound that he was using in there, and I would really love to know what he was using. It's not quite fuzz, and it's not quite pure amp tube distortion. There's some kind of distortion going on there on his opening notes, and it's just really nice distortion. It has a typical. To me, that was kind of the the intro of Jeff Beck as we know him for what he was about to do.
Yeah.
And that's the best way I could explain that solo in my ears. You know what I mean? It's that was kind of the start of him.
Yep.
of him, his sound, you know what I mean? His tone and feel and everything. I mean, just think of the intro on that and everything. That's Beck, man. You know, but there's something about the distortion on that always caught my ear that a little bitey, not quite, but you know, but that's what it was, the sound that first attracted my ears.
It's probably like a well-placed razor blade somewhere or in the back of between the tube and it's like something. Yeah. He probably did some kind of weird little thing in the back there to get it like that.
Yeah, definitely. You know, so, you know, hats off to the Jeff Beck group on that one. So, you know, they're a great band, by the way.
Oh, killer band. Probably a band that should have taken over the universe, right? Yeah. If it wasn't for all the egos. Yeah, I mean, they came this close to playing at Woodstock. Could you just imagine if the Jeff Beck group played at Woodstock? Right? They would have, you know, granted, like I said, a lot of egos going on in this band, so they were probably never destined for longevity. But could you just imagine the Jeff Beck group probably could have and should have been as big as Led Zeppelin, I think.
Oh yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, they were a fantastic band. They were all great players, and yes, the ego factor was a factor there. Yeah.
And I wanted to touch on something real quick. So you said that like kind of the Jeff Beck we all know and love kind of really appeared on this album, and I agree with you. I think he did a lot of really cool stuff with the Yardbirds, but I think it was the Beck that we know it on this album. And I do want to mention his little kind of tender use of slide on Beck's Bolero. Genius. It just sounds like it's like floating, right? It's just like he's walking on glass. Awesome stuff. That's a great choice. That's a great, and that didn't make my list, unfortunately, but.
The slide was very haunting in that. I actually have that in my notes. I forgot to mention that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. That was one of the haunting factors of that song, along with the fact that, that's kind of his intro, man, you know, to Beck. That's the way I feel. Many will argue with me about that.
Yep. No, not at all. It's great choice. Great choice.
All right.
Well, my number 2, you've already mentioned. Little Lead Boots, man. Love Lead Boots from the Wired album. Little Stratocaster mayhem there. You've already said tons of good stuff about it. I love it. I have always loved Lead Boots, man. And, you know, one of the best album openers of all time. Right, you know, Narada's drums coming in, and then the bass, and then the keys, and Jeff Beck just screaming. Fantastic song. I love it. Love it.
He hits those weird intro chords on that too, back, you know, right behind like the drums and all that stuff, and it's just like, but they're weird chords. And if you try to play them, you know, your fingers look like something out of a Steely Dan nightmare or something.
Yeah, unless you're Alan Holdsworth, right? Then it's not that easy. All right, now the drum roll. Now the drum roll for number 1. All right, so got a little ahead of myself before.
All right, so my number 1 is again, not really in any order or anything, but great song. It was going back to the Jeff Beck group again. Was Going Down, and I mean the work that he did. If you get a chance to YouTube it, or anybody watching the show today. YouTube that and watch when the piano player gets done doing his intro and all that stuff, and then when Beck comes in soloing, watch those two go at it together, or listen rather, because you can't see it that well on the video, but listen to what's going on there. You talk about I guess maybe it's the ego thing that we were just referring to, could be, but it worked because it was an incredible little duet rather kind of a thing going on in the solo there, man. Just he did some screaming work in there, you know, in your face, and then, you know, outro, you know, into the song. But when he jumped in, it was like soaring stuff, you know, in some spots, and again, listen for the piano work with him. You know, you might miss it if you're not listening for it because it's that intricate, and it's right on the money between the two of them. I'm like, Jesus, that's Going Down was a good one, and many have covered that. Steve Vai, Satriani.
I was just going to say the Jeff Beck group doing Going Down has probably created more end of concert jams for so many all-star collaborations and G3 tours and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame jams. I mean, seriously, they've been doing it for like 40 years. I mean, it's like going down is like, okay, the finale where everybody comes out and jams together has got to be going down. There's like no question about it anymore, right? So look what he started, man. Look what these guys started. Crazy.
Yeah, I love it.
That's a good choice. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's all legendary stuff we're talking about here. And my number one, you've already had on your list. Cause We've Ended as Lovers. I kind of decided to go out, and my number one is the big majestic piece from him. And yeah, it's a cover, but who cares? He made it his own, and it's just. Again, it takes you through like a journey in that solo, right? Because he's, majestic and tranquil, and then all of a sudden, here come the squeals, here come the pinch harmonics and the whammy bar, and just these screaming licks, and it's like it's fiery, it's gorgeous, it's like everything rolled into one. So that's my number one.
Yeah, great choice, man. That's one of my favorite tunes, and yeah, he's all over the place in the song, but he never left the. Like I was saying earlier, he never left that ballad vibe. You know what I mean? Like the ballad is in there to me for some reason. I hear that,
Yeah.
But yeah, he's like really clobbered that.
Oh yeah.
Many different directions with that song. Yeah, great song, man.
Yeah, love it.
He definitely made it his own, because all I hear that as is a Jeff Beck tune, cover or not.
I think most people do, right? Yeah, yeah, exactly. All right, you got some honorable mentions here?
Honorable mentions would
the whole catalog, right?
Yeah, I mean, one that I wanted to add was People Get Ready.
Yeah, that's nicely done. Yeah.
Again, let's see what else. Scatterbrain, by the way, I know you already mentioned that, but I would push into the Jan Hammer live album with that.
It's great on there.
Insane,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what else here that catch my fancy. It's difficult, man, because
there's so many. There's so many.
Like you messaged me last night. It's there aren't too many. That's why when we opened the show today, I was like the best of 50. It's hard to pick like just 10, because when I think of Beck, I just hear so many other tunes, man.
Yeah. So I had a couple from Guitar Shop that really pained me to not put in. So one was Savoy, the other's Big Block. I mean, they're both just amazing. And then one from the Beckola album, which is the second Jeff Beck Group album, is Plinth, Water Down the Drain. Another great solo. And I did want to throw a shout out because I love Stanley Clarke, and Jeff has done some recordings with Stanley Clarke over the years, especially back in the 70s. There's a song from the Journey to Love album called Hello, Jeff, which has some scary, crazy playing from Jeff on it. I wanted to throw that one out there. And, maybe Train Kept It Rolling.
That's great.
Yeah, exactly. He played on, I think he played on two Jeff Beck two Stanley Clarke albums. But that's, to me, that was the real highlight one. I think the song that really kind of gets me. And Train Kept It Rolling from the Yardbirds is pretty cool. Yeah. And Mr. You're a Better Man Than I is another cool Yardbirds tune with a really good Jeff Beck solo. But I like some of that Yardbirds stuff. But I think for me, he really became, like you said, the Jeff Beck we all know and love with that Truth album. That's what kind of really, really started. He was already showing flashes of brilliance, obviously. Yeah. So there's just a couple there for you.
Yeah,
cool.
Awesome, man.
So there you have, everybody. Lots of Jeff Beck solos to digest. If you haven't heard any of these, I definitely highly recommend you check these songs out, listen to these solos. As most of the songs we're talking about here are instrumental, it's basically soloing throughout the whole songs. That's what kind of makes it interesting, but still some great stuff. So I want to thank Mr. Jim Ledford for coming on the show again. Jim, you want to talk a little bit about this upcoming album you got in the works for Lion Music?
Oh, definitely. I decided to go with an EP. Not for any other reason other than the fact that a couple of the tunes I envisioned that I'm writing, I envisioned being a little bit longer. So I kind of wanted to put something short out. So probably 4 or 5 tunes, and that's going to be released for the new year, like as a new year release. with Lion Music, and my buddy Lars there in Finland. So I'm excited because there's some track work on there that, especially on one of the tunes, that I started reworking on, that I was messing with the Citroniti brothers in Italy a few years back, before Dom had some unfortunate issues with nerves in his hand. But I have the files, and they were kind enough to release everything, to do what I want with on this album and everything, just 2 weeks ago. So that being said, my face has been buried in guitars here and amplifiers, every minute that I get, and all I can tell everyone is, hold on, man, hold on to your seat, because at least one of those songs on that album is going to blow you right back, like the Membrex commercial where the dude's hair was flying. Yeah. This is going to be deeper and heavier than the last album. But not losing my personal vibe of always wanting to keep the melody in there. So, I'm excited. I haven't been excited in a while. I feel a little bit more excited than the other album I put out. So that means good.
Cool. That's good.
That means good. When you plug in and for writing and stuff, that's always a plus when you feel like that. So
cool.
I'm definitely pumped, man. So that's coming right in the new year. So it's kind of going to be like I was debating Christmas, or I said, you know what? No, let's get out of 20, the awful year, we'll call it, and look forward to something else, man. So good. Yeah, I'm pumped.
So that'll be available digitally at first. Do you have any plan for a physical copy on that, or just digital?
We're gonna do digitally, but I am gonna definitely. I know I said this with the other album, but it did well digitally. Especially overseas. My first album with Lion. So I was gonna just stick with that same feeling, but I really do want to do CDs. So I think what I'll do is the initial is always good digitally, just because of the way things are nowadays. Sometimes you literally mention CDs to people, and they're like, "What?
Yeah, what's a CD? I've forgotten all about that. They still make those?"
Yeah. So I think I better stay with the times as far as that goes, just because of the way things are. But I do want to put out a hard copy this time around. I'm feeling that, and I also feel that as far as like distribution, from a distribution standpoint, I think, because a lot of people asked me the last time, can I get a disc? Can I get a disc? And I didn't do that option last time.
Yeah, I hear you.
But yeah, so I think both, to answer the question.
Cool. Well, before I let you go, I want to ask you a little question about that guitar sitting behind you that I know has a little bit of a story that comes with it. So, and you're probably using that on the new album. So you want to talk a little bit about that gem that's sitting behind you there?
Yeah. This baby has a lot of history to it. For me personally, it's I bought it back in early 1990, 91, I think it was, and it's an original. It's an original gem made in Japan, and the story goes, and how I lost it and got it back in briefly, is I was working construction as a day job back then, and things weren't going great with that overall. They cut a lot of projects, and so right before Christmas, I lost my job. Having 2 little kids and a wife, I said, no, we're going to do Christmas somehow. So I ended up selling it to a good friend of mine. So I could have Christmas that year for the family. And I always said I was going to get it back. And once he got it, he didn't want to get rid of it, obviously. So I haunted him for years, almost 28 years to be precise. And last year, I sent him an email, this time last year, actually. And I said, listen, are you ever going to sell me that effing gem back or what? Because it still haunts me to this day that I got rid of it. It breaks my heart. So I didn't hear anything back for a couple of days. Usually it was an immediate 15-minute no. And that was it. No email, jokingly, like brothers being here. But to my surprise, a couple of days later, I got an email back, and all it said was, well, I am getting married. So along with that came the repurchase. I did have to lose my SG, which, I know you're an SG fan, and so am I. But I can replace that. I probably can't replace this as easy. So,
right.
I traded him an SG plus some green to get her back. But that's the story behind this puppy here.
Good.
But it's 28 years out of my hands and then back in my hands. And yes, it's already made an appearance on my recording software for the new album. So
cool. All right.
Yeah,
So it's always good, yeah, to get reacquainted with an old friend, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Yeah.
So any ideas for title of the new album, the follow-up to Red Hot Legato? Is anything kind of coming to your head yet, or?
It's going to be more like a body, mind, and soul title.
Cool.
Body, mind, and soul title.
There you go. That works. That works.
That's really honestly where it's at. So.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, we're looking forward to that. Lion Music, the great label out of Finland that's home to all sorts of fantastic guitar players and bands. And I know Jim's been with them for a couple of years now, and looking forward to the EP. So that should be great. So make sure everybody visits us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. Remember, if you like what you see, hit the Ko-Fi link below. Buy us a coffee, a tea, a pint of beer, whatever you like. Everything's appreciated. We got a merch page, link below for that as well. You can buy a Sea Tranquility t-shirt, hoodie, baseball hat, ski hat, coffee mug, sticker, whatever you like. And also we have a link to our website below. So I want to thank once again Jim Ledford for joining us here on this wonderful countdown of great Jeff Beck guitar solos. We'll be seeing Jim back again in the near future, so stay tuned. For everybody, I am Pete Pardo for Jim Ledford. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.